Mere mortals, welcome back. Have you ever wanted to know about neuromarketing? Well, today I spoke with someone who might just be able to enlighten us on neuromarketing, marketing, and everything in between. I had a chance to talk to Sarah Newport. She's the founder and owner of TwentyTwo, a digital agency here in Brisbane, a startup. And we talked all things marketing. We talked what makes it competitive, the downfalls, or I guess the improvement points that she's found as being a leader, looking after people, through to hiring, starting up a company, and everything in between, as well as what a day-to-day looks like, which I'll give you a bit of a tip. It's busy. So tune into this conversation with Sarah Newport. I want to talk about Queensland National Athletic Program. So it just interested me when I find this out about you. So
I don't know how you found it.
It's those things where you do like a quick little Google search and you'll find some information about people.
Lord.
It was one of those that I was, okay, that's interesting. So I wanted to touch base. What was it in? What sort of sport? And I think it might lead to a couple of questions.
So let me just preface this conversation with it was the Queensland National Athletics team, but for private schools. So
Right, okay. Yeah.
So it's a lot different.
Yeah.
While it's still an achievement, it's not as great of an achievement as it probably sounds.
Yep.
But it was for the 400 meter sprint.
Right.
And that was it. That's all I was apparently very good at.
So were you always a bit of a sporty person anyways, or was that driven by...
Yeah, I've always been an athletic person, very into sports and competing. 3 older brothers, so extremely competitive.
Yep.
And I was sports captain in primary school and then also sports captain in high school as well.
Yeah.
So I've always been really heavily in sport. I recently restarted netball again as well. And I do a lot of gym. I started boxing, and I do reformer Pilates quite often. So.
All right. Well, that leads me into a good point to talk about, because that's a lot of things, right? That's a lot of things that you're doing right now. And you do a lot of things, obviously, in terms of your day-to-day with work. So you're the founder and owner of, obviously, 22, so digital advertising agency. And that's obviously quite near here in Brisbane, but you've worked in marketing for quite a while. I mean, looking back years, right? 2015 and even beyond, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to probably go all the way to the end for you, Sarah. What was the reason to starting your own sort of company?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had a lot of exposure in other agencies and their working life and things like that. And while other agencies, have done really well, I kept thinking to myself, I could do this as well. I've always thought of myself as someone who would be really strong in leadership. Now that I'm in leadership, I think I have a lot to learn. Which is, if you don't think that you have a lot to learn, then you're kind of just stagnant. So you should always be learning. But I got to a point where I thought to myself, I either need a boss that's always 10 steps ahead of me, and they always have to be like running at all times. They don't stop, or I need to be my own boss. And so I chose to be my own boss. So because it's very hard to find the 10 steps ahead thing, particularly in the field that I'm in. Yeah. Because it's always changing. So there's likely never really someone that's 10 steps ahead.
And where did you hear that sort of 10 steps ahead?
That's my own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like to have someone that's my personality type is someone that learns. After university, I liked learning so much that I set up my own curriculum to follow at home.
Oh, wow. So your own curriculum. So you actually put together your own curriculum after university.
I did,
Can you give me a bit of a description of that?
Well, I have always been really interested in psychology, which is why I really like marketing. So I thought to myself, why not, instead of going back to university and studying psychology, set up my own psychology course, my own marketing course, and my own data science course as well. So I've constructed it from a number of different courses on Udemy and on various other channels as well. Set up my own tests, my own exams.
Are you a person who, because that's really, are you a person who's almost driven by that learning challenge to be able to almost, if you were a little bit more unstructured, do you find that you won't tackle it as much as when you put that structure to it and then you've got something to go against?
I think there's 2 main drivers for me. One is definitely learning. I have this crazy hunger for knowledge and knowing as much as I can. And the other is definitely driven by passion and competitive nature.
Yep.
So I'm very passionate about being competitive.
Where does that stem from, do you think?
3 older brothers.
Three older brothers? Yeah, okay.
They were all very great at sports and athletic. They were all sports captains as well.
Right, okay.
Except for one. But he was fantastic in the musical side, you know. So they've all got these amazing skills. So as a sister, the little sister, I felt like I always was trying to one up them. Not that I ever needed to. My parents are very loving. I come from a amazing family. But I just have this like built in me competitive nature that I have to beat them at everything.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's interesting. I asked the question because I personally myself, I'm really competitive as well, whether it comes to sports or whether I'm doing, you know, in the work field or different things. But it doesn't come from that. So I'm the older brother and I've got a younger sister. So it doesn't really come from the family dynamic. I think it's more from coming over to Australia and then almost kind of proving a point to do something and then feeling like, okay, well, we've got to be competitive to whatever I do.
Yeah.
Do you also find, like, I know definitely all the positives that come with being, you know, driven and competitive in that way. Have you found that there's been some drawbacks to that?
Your expectations of yourself are almost impossible.
Right.
So you're constantly, like, people see you from the outside as being really competitive, achieving all of these things, but you don't acknowledge them as achievements. You think, okay, well, that's one step, but I'm still not where I want to be.
Yeah.
So while not being content with where you are can be a really positive thing because you're always striving for more, also not being content with where you are means you're not content with where you are.
Yeah.
So you never take a breath or a moment to just be like, wow, I actually did a really great job. You're thinking, what's the next thing? Where do I go now? What do I do now? Which isn't healthy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's definitely not something that I recommend for people. I always think if you've done a great thing, acknowledge it, reflect, be like, wow, that was really awesome. And then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
That's why I always, with my team, I'm a very big leader on recognition. Whenever they do something awesome, I make a big show and dance about it. I bring them biscuits all the time. And
Yeah. Well, I was just about to ask you how those sort of examples, how you might do that personally as well as once you're a leader where you're leading people.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, if you know personally that you don't tend to acknowledge that, you might pass that on to others.
I actually, funnily enough, acknowledge it more in others than I do in myself. Because like I said, like when you're very fiercely competitive, you're a lot harder on yourself than you are to others. So you see others' achievements and you're like, that's amazing, you've done great, blah, blah, blah. But when you do it, it's like, no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Now, we'll move a little bit more into, obviously, you being a founder. I'd love to kind of know that moment or that day or the time when you decided, okay, I'm going to make the leap. And because were you doing contracting basically before that?
I've done contracting alongside every one of my full-time jobs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I would love to hear that sort of that point where you went, okay, from that full-time position and, you know, obviously doing some contracting on the side to go, okay, I'm doing this. What was that moment or that day like that made you go, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I was to give you the full story, I'd have to take it back to when I was 10 years old.
Okay, let's take it back.
And grade 5 Sarah had laid out her career plan for her life.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, okay. What was the life plan back then?
Interior designer.
Right, okay.
But own my own business. Then by the time I was 12, it was architect, but own my own business. By the time I was in grade 12, marketing, but own my own business.
Right.
So it's always been own my own business. It's just dependent on what field I ended up choosing.
Yep.
So I chose marketing because architecture and interior design are, yes, fiercely competitive fields, but I didn't think I was good enough to be able to excel in them. Marketing, I felt like that was something that kind of used my natural talents because naturally I wasn't amazing at, you know, the whole interior design or architecture aspect of things.
Right, okay.
I worked really hard and I got, you know, I was good at it, but I wasn't
Not
naturally.
exceptional,
Yeah, there was no natural talent there. Marketing, I like to think I have a natural talent for people.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I then decided marketing. And then since when I graduated high school, went straight into uni. I worked full-time while studying full-time. At some point there, I was doing 5 subjects a semester because I just wanted it over with.
Yeah.
And I love a good study. And then I went into a marketing manager position when I graduated and then went to a project manager position after that. When I was at my last agency, awesome team, great people, and fantastic work, but it was more that my contracting was competing with my full-time work,
Right,
and I
okay.
didn't think it was fair on either one. So I had to make the choice whether I, stay full-time, and then bring back the contracting a lot more so that I can excel in that side,
Yep.
or leave my full-time position, the stability and safety of life, and then go out on my own and risk everything.
Yeah.
I'm not a risk taker. My beautiful fiance is, and he kept saying, just do it, just do it, just do it. For about the last 4 years, he's been saying, just do it.
Yeah.
And it just got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I did. And then I already had a handful of clients when I had left because of my contracting. And then I got my own space, hired my first employee, and then hired another employee and another one. And now we're, doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So,
So a couple of points I'd love to hear. So obviously you're saying your fiance was sort of backing you and saying, you might not be
my
wanting
biggest
to,
advocate.
which is really good to have.
Yeah.
Obviously, the closer those individuals who are close to you, want them to be able to support you as much as possible. When you were saying obviously that you had individuals backing you, like you should take the risk. Let's just see how it goes. Did you have equally people at that time who were maybe going the opposite way and suggesting, stay in a full-time position. That's a little bit risky. Don't take it. Stay within the means.
I think I had people in my life who are definitely categorized as risk takers, which were the people backing me, and then the ones that are more, I call them realists because I am that as well. And that's very much my mindset, where it's like, okay, calculate all the risk before you do it, which is, what feeds into the marketing side to make sure that our marketing is successful, is risk assessment and evaluation. And so I have had lots of conversations with people about, the risk side of things, and if it would be worth the risk. And everyone said yes. So they said, even on the risk side of things, they said, yes, it could be scary, but the worst thing that you'll do is you'll go bankrupt and then go work in a full-time position somewhere else. Yeah, because you have the skill set to go somewhere else. And I was like, that's true. I mean, if worst comes to worst, I could just go back into a full-time job. So that's, I definitely had both sides backing me. I wouldn't say the whole time I did, but most of the time I did.
Yeah. So. It's interesting you mentioned that, the whole, because some of the reasons that, you step into the unknown and not knowing what's going on, you almost think, if I go there, what's going to happen, and the major risks. And you're right. You kind of forget, well, you can always step back and go, and you almost think, I kind of have this feeling, for me, it's when I'm competitive. So it's almost like, I'm already going okay here.
Yeah.
If I divert and go and it fails, I've got missed time here. But when you equally look at it, it's almost, sure, but you're still going to always be wanting to go and try out what happened over here with my own thing.
Exactly. And that's what I think I would regret it if I didn't.
Yeah. So how was hiring an individual to actually work for you? Because that's probably the first time that you've had to hire someone.
Well, I am a marketing director for a BPO in the Philippines. So I do get involved in the hiring process there. And at previous agencies, clients actually got me involved in their hiring process.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So you had a little bit of...
Yeah, I'm not shy to it. But I mean, for me, hiring my team was all about the right people. I didn't care if they had this crazy amount of exposure to things. And I specifically use the word exposure, not experience there.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't care. I was like, as long as you have the attitude to learn and you're a good person and you want to be involved in a company that is, very small at the moment, but wants to grow quite exponentially, and you want to grow with it, then come on board. Yeah. And then I got my two awesome teammates now.
How did you find then, was it, what kind of questions did you ask to try to incite that? Or were you just almost a case of, let's just have a conversation and I'll be able to tell what the individual's like?
Yeah, the conversation side of things. And I actually have history with both of them. Right. So I do know them as people and trust them as people as well. So.
Right, okay. And if there was someone, let's just say,
that had zero history.
Everything goes well, you got zero history. Do you think there'd be particular questions you'd want to ask to try to bring about that? So to kind of move away from just about the exposure that you might have had, but to understand maybe the character or the attributes that they have to bring.
I always like to know why people are leaving their position. That's always my go-to question of why do you want to leave and what attracted you to this role. Are always my number 1 and 2 questions. But then aside from that, I like looking at how people respond to specific questions, like more their mannerisms sort of thing. And also how they respond to meeting the team as well.
Yeah,
That's a really important thing for me when they meet my team, you know, because we're very, I would say, lucky in our team of how we currently are. Each person has their own specific area that they excel in. We all get along really well. It's low drama, super
That's what
chill
you
environment.
want. Yeah. No, you do not want a small company or
Yeah.
startup or that has like high drama.
Yeah, we don't want any disruption there. So having them meet the team and the team being like, yes, I think they're a good fit or no is really important to me.
Yeah.
So that's actually a part in the interview process where the team's opinion is highly weighted on whether someone gets hired. So.
Right. Okay. So it's almost like you bring their point of view as well to ensure that they can sort of make a fit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
With marketing, so now I'm going to ask you probably a few questions in the marketing space because I might be able to know a few pieces, obviously not to the extent that I've worked in the industry or anything. So with the work that you do now, obviously with the company, are you finding specifically there's other agencies that's getting things wrong? Like where are you seeing in the marketing space that you might be trying to come in and do things differently? Because obviously you've got the experience to see, okay, there's something missing here.
I don't think it's so much that agencies are doing things wrong. I think that every agency has an area that they do things exceptionally right. But I think it's just acknowledging the areas that you don't. You know, like understanding weaknesses in some areas and strengths. Like I'm sure we have many, but then we also have our key strengths. And for us, what I found was the gap in the market was that really strong data point and the marketing science point as well. Now I've noticed since I started my agency that data-driven marketing has become a bit of a buzzword. So now I refuse to say it. I now say marketing science. We're a marketing science agency. So everything that we do, we like to ensure that it's backed by numbers. Intuition still has a place, definitely, in marketing, but it's just kind of not acceptable to have that intuition without numbers to support it.
Yeah.
Because we just have such an inundation of data that it's literally seems almost silly to not back your intuition by numbers.
In a practical sense, what does that mean for someone listening right now? So imagine I'm thinking, say someone comes with a website, let's just say, and it's either they don't have a website or it's just very rudimentary. What's that differentiation of marketing with science as opposed to with maybe the more traditional means? Yeah,
so I mean, if you go like 10 years ago, it's probably the more traditional means of like, we have found that XYZ works better, but no testing behind it. And you know what, there was validation there, definitely, because that would be based off of people with experience or exposure to be able to make those claims. Whereas now you can test everything. So for us, it's about saying, okay, we want to change a call to action button. This is like the most simplest test, just to preface that. But we want to change this call to action on the website to this color. And then, the designers are all like, no, that's not with the color. That's not with the style guide, blah, blah, blah. But then as marketers, we go, okay, well, let's test using like Google Optimize or things like that to see if, yes, this will have any impact on whether people convert fully or no, it won't. If it doesn't have any impact, then we don't need to worry about it. But if it does, then let's swap it over. And then beyond that, if you have those tests, it's finding out if your results are actually statistically significant. And what I mean by that is determining if there was enough people exposed at a non-biased amount to the change. And whether like that amount that was exposed to both can determine whether, yes, it made an impact or no, it didn't. And there's like a certain percentage range that you want to be in there.
And it's almost sort of the, if you look at, you're thinking like the curve and, how far you are from that statistical average to go, okay, well, if it's gone beyond here, then
it's an outlier.
Then it's exactly. Do you find that having those conversations with clients now, they clearly understand that? Or is there still almost sort of examples of things you have to show them to get them to understand this is the differentiation? I think
people are a lot more open to it. I love a good challenge. So whenever a client says to me, no, I don't want to do that because of XYZ, I'll say, okay, I'm totally fine for you. Like I always say to people, I am open to being wrong. That's like my go-to. Like I'm okay if I'm wrong, but let's test it. to make sure. And when I am wrong, I am so okay with that because I'm like, you know what, you were right. Awesome. Now we have numbers to back it up. So technically I still win. But, if I'm right, then at least I can say, well, now we're actually, making leeway. And that's when they start to trust you as well.
Yeah.
Because you're starting to prove your worth. So it's totally understandable for any client ever to have hesitation when joining an agency because you're outsourcing a huge part of your company to a partner that you may not necessarily know or trust.
That's true. Yeah.
So
I think the data allows that connection to be almost, it's like a third party almost showing that connection because you can be talking intuitively or talking about conversation on what's happening. But when you look at the data, it's almost this third party that says, well, it's either right or wrong, or it's telling you where it's going, and it's not lying to you.
That's why I love numbers so much. They don't lie. So
which is good. And it proves the point of what you're doing, or, obviously defies if that change is going to be incorrect. So at least you've got something else that backs it as well, which is good. What are you finding either personally or with the company? We can talk about successes all we want, which would be fine. But more, what is the biggest challenge you've found so far, sort of running 22?
I would say the leadership piece. Okay. I always thought I had a natural act for leadership, and I was like, yes, I'm going to be so great at this. This is going to be awesome. I've got so much to learn.
What in particular do you think of in the leadership realm?
I mean, I definitely think I have a problem with boundary setting because I want them to be happy all the time.
Right.
So sometimes at the sacrifice of myself, which I don't think is a negative thing. I think that if anything, that might be a good leader. I don't know yet. I'm still too new to be able to determine that. But I think that I just need to be more or better at clearly defining boundaries. So and that's totally on me.
And
my team is awesome.
Do you mean boundaries by I would say like messaging hours or sort of work hours, or would it be by
more just like clear expectations of what I expect from them and what they expect from me. So, and I try and provide that platform for everyone. And I think we're getting there. It was definitely a thing at the start that was totally on me, and the team was great because I get feedback from them all the time on my leadership because I'm growing as well. I said to them, like, I'm new at this role, so I need your support to help me grow and learn.
Certainly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's getting there. That's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that when I started finding, when I was looking after people was, and for a long time, I didn't want to go down this path because I thought, oh, well, I'm leading people. That means that, it's not, they should be accountable and owners of what they're doing. But it took a long time.
Not always, yeah.
Yeah, but it took me a long time to realize, sometimes even if the issue is directly something that they've done, you still have the ownership that you could have shown them a different way or, set the expectations correctly.
Exactly.
And you could have sort of cut off those issues, you yourself as being that leader. So it can definitely be one of those biggest challenges. What are you finding the biggest success then is currently?
I actually was answering this question the other day. I was talking to my partner and saying what did he believe his definition of success was? Riveting conversations between the partners, yes. He was telling me about his whole definition and what that means to him, and I found it really interesting.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about mine and what my definition of success would be. So when you say, what's the biggest success, it depends what success is to people.
That's true.
Mine's not monetary driven at all, or growth driven even. It's actually the success of my team and their capabilities. It took me a really long time to identify this, but the thing that brings me the most joy is whenever I turn around and see both of so I sit like facing a wall. A window, sorry.
Yep.
And then they're like over here sitting together next to each other, and my back's kind of to them. And whenever I turn around and see one of them helping the other one or showing the other one how to do something, I always get a huge smile. It makes me so happy. Like my heart gets so full with that because it means so much to me that they can prosper without me. So like to me, success is the independence of my team and knowing that they're going to be great in the roles to come.
Yeah.
I mean, I preface every single, am I saying that word wrong?
Preface?
Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. every single time that someone starts to roll with us, I always say, I don't expect you to be here beyond 2 years. I mean, 2 years, I'm super stoked. I want you here for that as a minimum. Any longer is a blessing. Like, thank you. Super grateful.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But thank you for being here. But I want to ensure that while they're here, they learn as much as they can. And I say to them, like, you'll probably hate me at times. You'll love me other times, but you will definitely appreciate me when you're at another role because I'm going to teach them absolutely everything that I can from what I've learned. So that way, if they go into another role, they can demand whatever salary they want. They can, you know, showcase their skill set and be exceptional at what they do. Just because I'm like truly dedicated into growing them in their areas.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's a wonderful quality. And it's a really good definition of success because you're right. You can get into real troubles when even you're not aligned with what success is and what the other individuals are in your company as well, right? So I'm sure you know there's obviously going to be something that you align success for the company, and that could be, you know, particular revenues or growth or whatever it may be. But when you've got that view of making the team successful, you almost you prioritize what's important, and it's the people and the people who are going to make things work. I work in a lot of IT and digital space, and I can't tell you how many times that the issue at the very beginning looks like is, you know, there's some tech issue, there's something wrong with somewhere in the stack or on, you know, if it's a provider or something else. But in the end, all the challenges come, it's in the interactions with the people and getting people to actually do things. So caring about that just facilitates everything else.
Totally. And, you know, if like profitability of any business is definitely a priority. But if you have a team that works well together, works independently and gets like crap done, then, you know, you're enhancing that profitability.
Yeah.
So
and you don't want to go, you don't want to go into the office every day into a company that's making bucket loads of money, but you hate being with people and conversing. That's almost your number one thing of, sure, it's fine, I'm making whatever amount of money, but actually I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can only last for so long.
Exactly. And I would hate if someone felt that way at my company. That would make me really sad. So, and then I would probably, like, I don't know, hold a fair or something like that.
Well, I like that prioritization. It's really nice.
We're investing in a fairy floss machine. So that's
our next
thing. Yes, that's our next thing internally. So
now we're talking about definition of success. I'd love to, obviously we talk a little bit about, that's kind of the company side. What does that look like for you personally? So I was going to say sort of that, what's that success looks like, I guess, in your relationships, in your day-to-day life, even in your maybe your structure or the way that you hold it at your day-to-day sort of routine. Yeah,
I think for me it's ensuring there's time for things that I love. So things that I love, there's many. My fiance, my cat, drawing, art, hikes, things like that. I really like boxing at the moment. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, success is more ensuring. I know there's not going to be a work-life balance for a while since I've started a business, and I think that it's a challenge for people to be able to have work-life balance. And everyone says, you know, you should definitely prioritize that, all of that stuff. But realistically, when you choose to be a business owner, you're choosing not to have a work-life balance for a while.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to. Like, it is what it is. You know, your business. I would be so impressed if I met someone that had a work-life balance and started their own business at the beginning.
Yeah.
Down the road, totally. At the beginning,
yeah,
really?
no.
Like, are you sure? So for me, it's eventually getting to that, but knowing that I don't have that at the moment.
Right. Okay.
And be okay with that, which I am.
Do you find that term sort of work-life balance, is it a case that you do want to, at a point in time in the future, to look back and go, okay, now I'm doing more of these other things that I want to be, you know, going down a path of? Or could it be perhaps, you know, in the future, say 2-3 years down the track, and you've got maybe 10-30 people in the company that maybe it will be as busy, but it's just sort of evolved into a different space, and you'll still be okay with that because the challenges are different, they're greater, but you're still enjoying the time that you're sort of in that space as well? Yeah,
I think I want the business to grow to a point where it's pretty autonomous, and then have a 2IC or a CEO, and then start other branches of the business. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
Won't be a while for that. But
it's excellent that you have that view, though, right? Yeah. Because some people can find, you know, they found a company and then they'll just stay in there for a very, very, very long time. And I think what people don't realize is, sure, maybe when you've got one person or two people, that's okay. And it's always going to be busy. But try doing that when you've got 100 people and you're overlooking everything that's happening.
Yeah, I don't want to look over everything. Yeah. I want to trust people, and I hire people that I trust, and I want to trust them to do their job. And then I want to hire a 2IC and trust them to manage the people doing their job. Yeah. Because like realistically, I want it to be at a point where I just get a report every week just saying like, this is where everything sort of sits. And I'll be like, cool, sweet, good job. Yeah. Or, hey, let's look at this area. And then I can branch out and do those other areas.
So what does today look like then for you in a work-life balance? So let's just pick a random day from the week where it's, a little bit of a mix of you trying to do a few of those things where it's like boxing or whatnot.
I'll choose my worst day, the Tuesday.
Yeah, let's do it. Tuesday.
What
does Tuesday look like?
I hate Tuesdays on the best of days. That's the worst day of the week. Every week. It's just, I had an old boss who I am still quite close with and I adore a lot. She taught me a lot, but she said Tuesday is just the worst day. She was so right. Yeah. She's so right. And so this Tuesday, I got up at 4 a.m., started work with a tea in my hand. And I smashed out a whole bunch of search-related tasks. Yep. Then I went into content input for a website to make sure that was done before 8 a.m. Then I got ready for work, went to work, was there at about 7:30, was working all day, didn't have a lunch break, kept working through my lunch break. Then,
and was that filled with you personally doing tasks or a mixture of meetings and
a mixture of everything? Okay, so most of my days are filled with meetings, but then also helping the team in specific things because I help with a lot of the strategic side. So they'll pick my brain for a lot of things and book meetings with me to say like, can I go over this with you, XYZ, all of that stuff. Anyway, so it gets to 4 o'clock and I was like, man, I'm tired. I guess 4:30, I just finished work, head home. And then I was like, oh wait, I have boxing in 45 minutes. Yeah. So get dressed for boxing, go to boxing, did boxing, go home, cook dinner. After dinner, sit on my computer just making sure I responded to all my emails that day. Read a book, go to bed.
Yeah. So, and look, and not every single day is like that, obviously. No. Like the people listening, like that is a reality as well when you're looking after your own thing, when you're looking after a company. There's a bit of, where you actually have to put rubber to the road and go, okay, well, there's work to be done. Yeah. And the reason I asked the question about whether it was split with all meetings or, you actively doing things as well is I think people don't realize how much you sometimes have to be tactically in the business and strategically in the business.
Absolutely.
And I was going to ask you, did you find any troubles at the beginning where you were being, I guess, more tactical than strategic or like being more hands-on when you maybe needed to be less hands-on?
I was quite hands-on at the beginning because I had a lot of contractor clients. So turning into an agency, they were a bit reluctant to let go. But it just really got to a point where I was like, I physically cannot service clients. I have to focus on the business, training my team, recruiting new people, sales, all of that. Because I'm already doing about 4 or 5 jobs at the moment. Yeah. So also doing like account and marketing management. I was like, no, I can't do that as well.
And again, when you begin a company, you're everything. You're your CEO, CIO, CIO, you're absolutely everything of the company until you can, bring in people that can go and sort of do those roles. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I make sure that I always have one client just so that I can stay on the tools and I never lose my touch. Because like I said, I always wanted a boss that was 10 steps ahead. So I'm making sure I'm always 10 steps ahead of my team.
I love that. Now, where do you see, I don't know if you do this or either personally with goal setting or with a company, but for 22, are you looking at, okay, we want to be here maybe in a year or in 2 years or in 5 years? What's the sort of outlook for you?
So I have the next 10 years mapped out.
Amazing. I love it. Yeah.
So quarterly is non-movable goals. Yearly is like slightly able to shift depending on the direction that we take in those quarters. 3 years is movable, but try and aim for. 5 years is the same thing. 10 years is like pretty fluid, but this is where we vision the business being in 10 years, knowing that it may shift. I had a meeting with the team where I bought a cake and we all just sat down and went through all of this. Yeah, I was like, the cake will make you happy while I go through the business stuff. It did. So Yeah. So, I mean, for us, definitely growth is the most important thing this year. We want to have 6 team members by the end of the year.
Nice.
Which would be nice.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be good for us. Have our own space as well. And yeah, be really happy with the clients that we're working with and the profitability of said clients as well. Yeah.
Do you find that with a 10-year plan, did you begin at the 10 years and then work backwards, or did you start with the quarters and then build it up to the 10-year?
I already knew where I wanted to be in 10 years. So I actually started at the year and went back in quarters, and then went back to the year, and then went up 3, 5, 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, because you need the year to be able to map out the quarters to achieve the year.
Yeah,
So,
and that was and do you do that personally at all as well? So obviously there's a business side. Do you do that personally?
Yeah, I have my own career plan.
See, there you go. So I'll give you a little
It's
the
mapped
reason I
out
asked
in a
this is
spreadsheet.
for us, I guess with myself and Karen. So I sort of have monthly goals, and those monthlies then build up into the yearly, and then I've got something called an eminent human being sort of list, and this is almost those aspirational 5 through to 20 year plans, and I sort of look at, okay, that's what I would consider a really great individual that if I was to look back and be like, oh wow, that's amazing, and then I sort of mapped that down, but I went from the absolute top level sort of eminent qualities that I want to aspire towards, and then brought it back down.
Nice.
So it's interesting, but I guess you're doing some form of that from the year down and then back up. It's, I guess, just a different format of doing it, but it's still the same
approach.
thing.
There's actually, oh my goodness, I cannot remember the author, but the book is called Smart Work. If I could recommend any book for people that, want organization skills kind of ingrained into them, this is the best book for it. It taught me all about monthly planning, weekly planning, down to daily planning. So for me personally, I mix my professional and personal goals for a month. And try and achieve, it's like the top 10 that you want to achieve that month, and then you rank them in priority. 100% recommend that book.
And is that because basically if it's not in your top 10, then it's not really a priority, basically?
Yeah. Well, you can only have so many priorities, right?
Exactly.
If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I love that you've got obviously those aspirations, that you've got the structure, because that's also, I was going to say, definitely recommend to people. Yeah. Because it's almost in having the structure, it gives you more freedom.
Totally.
Because you've got the structure set up in place. Yeah. I want to lead that into a little bit, because I don't want to miss out on this, which is neuromarketing. So we've talked a little bit about this, and obviously if it's a different terminology that you want to call it, feel free to change it. I'm assuming that's built into the plan in there somewhere in terms of the goals and the structures.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to can I get 1 minute spiel? What is that? And how do you plan?
Harvard's dictionary defines.
And how do you sort of plan to bring, because I'm assuming that through your agency, you're hoping to bring that availability to the Australian market.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I know it's definitely in the Australian market, but probably not so much in the digital marketing agency space, right? So for all those out there, neuromarketing is the study of brain activity in response to marketing stimuli. So you have to measure it. By measuring it, there's different technologies that you can adopt to be able to do that. Lots of different ones out there that are becoming more and more affordable, which is good. It's definitely not something that I would say is utilized that I'm aware of for marketing in Australia. I do know that in the States, definitely. Don't know about the UK or EU, but I would assume so, because the States are normally about 10 years ahead of us. So I actually follow the States marketing for everything, just because I know that I can be an early adopter that way. Which is why I want to bring that into the Australian market, which would be quite cool. So really what it would be, or what would be involved, as far as I'm aware at the moment, I'm still studying it, is that you would take the marketing science approach, which is our agency, and you would determine a hypothesis. You would get your control group or your sample and then split into 2 control groups, expose them to marketing stimuli of some kind, whatever you're testing relevant to that. You would then get them to wear brain measurement technology, expose them to another thing that you wanted to get their genuine response to, and then determine what part of the brain is triggered during that exposure. So I know Coca-Cola does it really well with memory. I don't know if they exactly do neuromarketing. I would presume so because they're a huge
and this
company.
was with
so.
obviously the sort of they play a storyline so that holds
Yeah.
in the memory state, and so you actually you recall a memory, but you're also placing the Coca-Cola ad sort of
You're
on
not
top
selling
of
the
that.
product, you're selling nostalgia.
Yep.
You know, and I obviously cannot speak for Coca-Cola. I do not know if they're using that, but I would make that assumption from it because their marketing is just awesome.
Yeah.
So, and they're definitely a company that I aspire to be like. But yeah, there's different examples as well from looking at a whole bunch of stuff that I've looked at. There's the whole study of like the price matrix sort of thing where it's looking at does price impact perception, and there have been several tests that have been done on the neuromarketing side where there was 3 bottles of wine. So this is an example. 3 bottles of wine, each with a different price, so like cheap, medium, high.
Yep.
And then a control group were exposed to all of the wine. They had the perception that the most expensive one tasted the best,
The better,
or they had the higher perception of it. So there was a part in their brain that was triggering that. All the wine was exactly the same, which is obvious. And then all that did was just give them the summary answer that if they were exposed to the price beforehand and then drank the wine, their brain would then think, is this worth the price? Whereas if they were exposed to the wine first and then saw the price, they say, what was it? Do I like this product? That was it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what do I think about this product? So, yeah.
Yeah. So you almost by seeing it later, it shifts what your brain's actually thinking about from, I'm going to be, whatever the price is saying, I'm probably going to take it into my input.
Totally.
As opposed to, I'm taking it as a product and then just seeing the price for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So I love that stuff. I think it's super, super interesting. I am definitely wanting to expand into that field. So.
And do you think you're going to be doing that through 22 as well?
Yes. Yeah. That's the idea, is through 22, through the year 21. So this year we're hoping to expand into that and then offer it as a free service to begin with, just so that we can build up, our testings of it and then provide value to people and kind of break into the market with it. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. And where did the name 22 come from?
It's my lucky number.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I keep thinking I should come up with some elaborate story for it, but it's my lucky number.
There's got to be like some story, like almost $7 Productions from Dwayne Johnson, where it's like, had $7 in his pocket.
I was born on the 22nd. My fiance was born on the 22nd. We started dating on the 22nd.
There you go. That's enough. That's probably the
disclosure. It was actually the 27th, but we changed it to the 22nd because we kept forgetting the day.
So you're like, we'll put it on the day we won't forget. The 22nd.
We both won't forget
fine.
that. And also, with it being my lucky number, 22. There's a lot of companies that have various names for various reasons. I think that 22 is fitting, given that we're a numbers-based agency.
Of course. Yeah, I do like that. Yeah.
Choose a number to represent the numbers. So
I like that.
And
Sarah,
it's my lucky one.
Is there any other things you want to leave the audience with, or any notes?
Live long and prosper.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, where can people find you, both personally and obviously with 22 as well?
Oh, yeah. 22 is just 22digital.com. We have a website, which is nice. Just like most people.
I actually went to your website recently because I personally built a couple of websites in the past a lot of times. And I was like, I really enjoyed the desktop version. But that's not where the test is. That's not where the test is. When you go to mobile,
it's mobile response.
And it was really, really cool on mobile. So I would recommend people go and check out 22 Digital. Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, I'm predominantly on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at. I do have a lot of hike photos on Instagram. Go for a hike every weekend. So, and yeah, 22 is on LinkedIn as well. So
there you go.
And Instagram.
Brilliant.
And Facebook as well.
There you go, Sarah. Thank you very much.